welcome to round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of July 20th. I'm Catherine Haleko, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
And Nicole Erdix.
Hi there.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for that day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes worrying about something or other. Wednesday is complaint day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we're complaining about how hard it is to teach kids independence. Nicole ran across this article on how to... It's basically like the scaffolding strategy of teaching kids to do things independently, you know, with a lot of support along the way. But it's not easy letting go, especially in this weird time that we're in, as we talked about on Monday. We talked a lot about decision making on Monday, and independence, of course, is wrapped up in that as well. Because if you're going to let kids do things independently, they may have to make decisions while they're independenting. So it's tough. Terry, what have you been working on with in terms of independence?
Oh, it really is difficult right now. I mean, my son was getting a lot of good independence because he had 2 jobs, and I would drop him off at that job and come back and pick him up and not know what happened in between. And I think it was really good for him to be on his own. I see people pop up on his Facebook page and say, who are those people? Oh, it's somebody I work with. And I really, really liked that for him. Mm-hmm. But then the pandemic sort of took those away. He's finally back now at the food pantry, but I have no idea when those other jobs is coming back. So his world has gotten a lot smaller, and there's also really less chance for independent decision making because there's so much that you just have to do anymore.
Right.
So that's very frustrating. My daughter still has her job, and so she still has a large degree of independence, and I try really, really hard to stay out of things and let her make her decisions and let her do her things, even if I disagree. It is not easy because I know better, you know. I really do. But I also remember being her age and how much I appreciated my mom telling me what I should do, not. So, I pulled myself back as much as I can, and I just let chips fall as much as I can. And usually things don't turn out the way I think they're going to. And so it works out to be okay. And, I urge her towards more and more of it. When she comes up on something that she's afraid of, I still encourage her to do it, and to be independent, even though part of me really wants to just say, that's okay, Mommy, we'll do it for you. And mostly it works out okay. But, there's been bad patches in her life where I think if I had not pushed her to be so independent, maybe this bad patch would not have come. Maybe this job would have gone better. Maybe, so it's really tricky, even with kids who are 27 and 30. It's hard, especially also when you're living in the same house with them. Mm-hmm. If they were off, if they had the degree of independence that was not living at home, then I would be much less in their business. But to allow independence when the birds are still in your nest and the nest really isn't that big and you sort of know every little peep that goes on and every little wing flutter, it's much more drive to say, you know what, let me just do this for you. Let me just tell you what to do. Here's what you do exactly this. Mm-hmm. So it is an ongoing struggle. And scaffolding is very important in terms of if they fail, they're not going to fail hard. If they fall, they're not going to fall far.
Right.
There's another nest right below. So if the little birdie falls out, they can soften the fall. But that's not always possible. And now just I really feel the heightened tension of this moment in so many areas where my kids could make bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And the only way to keep that from happening is to wrap them in cotton and put them in storage for 10 years. And that cannot happen. So,
right.
How is it going with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I have my younger one, he theoretically is taking online driver's ed right now, like just the classroom part of it, but he's not really doing it. And I'm like, do you do you want to learn how to drive? Like, maybe you just don't. No, I want to. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what else I can do, to explain the natural consequences here.
Right.
Like, what they are. He knows what they are. But
that reminds me, sorry, I have to insert. We went on and on with my son wanting to drive, and he kept, you have to take the test, you have to pass the test, you have to study for the test, and went on and on and on. And he sort of put that aside for now. We've decided we'll revisit it when he's 30, but now he wants to grow a mustache. He's not letting his dad shave him. He's growing a mustache. And I'm like, you know what? If that's the independent step, yes, I am for facial hair. Absolutely. Driving, facial hair. Yes, go for it, man. You determine what happens to your face. You are in charge of your facial hair situation. I am so happy with this. So I don't know, Catherine, maybe steer him in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, and it just made me think, I just signed him up. I mean, I didn't without asking, but I just signed him up because it's his age, it's time. And then I had to stop and say, well, maybe he just doesn't actually want to. But he says he does. So
yeah, we kind of has to.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's the situation where they have the independence and then it doesn't go so well, so you have to scale it back. So you're, struggling to scale back what they had and help them be more successful at that independence.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tough one too, right? Because it's like you're retraining in a way, but not really. But yeah, I mean, I'm just, thinking about certain situations that my daughter was in last year where I thought she was able to handle it. And then, turns out she struggled with it. So now it's like, okay, well, let's take a step back and figure out how we're going to do this successfully. Right. So that's tough too, because you don't want to make them feel bad or, experience any kind of shame or anything like that. But maybe, I don't know, I feel like I failed at it. I think it's just more me. I failed at teaching her independence. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it takes a long time, like just looking at, for example, laundry. It's been probably like a year since I said, okay, you're doing your own laundry now.
Right.
Maybe longer than that for my older child. And the older one, just did it and continues to do it and no problem. And the younger one would, just let it pile up. And then, have a desperate, I have no shorts. I have no whatever.
Yeah.
But I actually stayed fairly patient with it. And now this summer, he seems to be doing it on his own when it needs to be done. So that's a little tiny independence success story.
That is inspiring. Having your child do their own laundry all the time. Yeah. I aspire to that. That's one of the things I was referring to, by the way. Failing at. Child does not seem to care.
The older one, I don't have to worry. If she does go to school, she will wash her own clothes. And the second one, I guess I'm starting to feel a little bit better about his ability to do that task. Part of it is he bought himself some more clothes. I think that helped.
He's just doing less in general.
Yeah.
I think that's a standard guy strategy, is just to buy more clothes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Socks and underwear. That's the strategy. And it's deceiving because you just think that they're, all tickety-boo, and then all of a sudden they're not.
Yeah. My daughter's real good at the sort of the smaller independence things, like doing her own laundry. And she wants to buy something, she goes and buys it for herself. She's, wants some particular food in the house, she goes and gets it. And she handles her own prescriptions, she handles her own doctor's appointments. She does really well with all of that stuff. The bigger life stuff sometimes is where I feel like I want to step in. But I really appreciate that she's picked up skills to do a lot of these smaller, less worry-centric things. I may be concerned about what the doctor is saying and what she's prescribed, but I like that she just goes to the pharmacy by herself and gets her stuff.
Yeah. Right.
She takes charge of when to take stuff, and she takes charge of making her own doctor's appointments and handling her own insurance and all that I don't have to do. So I can save my anxiety for the larger things.
Yeah.
Of which there are many.
Always.
Yes. Maybe we just need to be like, I always say this in my professional world, but kids learn at different rates and different ways, and they're eventually going to pick it up as they need to. Of course,
and in the meantime, we should hang over them and dog their every step.
Yeah. Maybe I just need to practice what I preach is what needs to happen. Because I know, eventually she's going to do her laundry. She has to.
Right. Yeah. Thing is, when you're an educator making those pronouncements, you don't have to actually deal with the day-to-day fallout.
Right.
When you're a parent, you do.
Yeah.
So that's what I always said to the people who said things like that to me.
Yeah.
In schools.
Like, hello.
Yeah.
Wow.
Easy for you.
I know. Stay tuned and see this. I think, but I do see a light at the end of the tunnel, because I look at my son, and he's older than my daughter, obviously, and I didn't hold out much hope for him of doing it. Things were pretty challenging when he was a teenager. And he's now been back home for the last 2 years. And honestly, I don't know if it's just maturity or him living on his own and appreciating what has to happen and what his responsibility level is. I just kind of leave him to his own devices. He takes care of everything, which is nice. He should. He's 24. But yeah, it's kind of nice that he was able to pick up a lot of what we taught him. So, and then of course his own stuff. But yeah, so I have hope. Have hope. So yeah, if any of our listeners have any suggestions for ways to make your kids independent, that would be most appreciated. That's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll talk about the mistakes we've made recently, and then on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundabout Roundup picks this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout.